Now then, it's a nice sunny day, although it's a bit drafty, but we're deep in the woods here, and this is the best oak tree in this particular piece of woodland, and we'll have a look at that shortly. But I just want to mention very briefly that this whole pandemic that's going on at the moment, and for future reference we're talking March 2020, is a wake-up call to people who live on the edge, as it were, financially and consumer-wise. Without going on too much, it's important to have some sort of reserves behind you. Yeah, now I'm not talking about going out and buying lots of stuff now, but it's a philosophy for the future to almost say less is more. Yeah? Buying loads and loads of consumer durables or non-durables is just a way of putting a sticking plaster on a dissatisfied life. Maybe with all this shutdown of all the services, and people can then just reflect on what's the true meaning of where we're at. Yeah? It seems to me that air travel has caused this virus to spread very rapidly, and of course air travel puts pollution just right in the wrong point of the atmosphere also, and it's highlighting the sickness of the way that we live, put it like that, and having some self-reliance and seeking a contentment with life rather than always looking to the next new thing is perhaps the way, or in my estimation is the way, to attain a happier way of life. Not that I think that happiness is actually a quantifiable aspect of life, but I would say that contentment with where you're at, digging the veg plot, cutting firewood, looking after the environment, is deeply satisfying. And it's what we do in life. Life isn't about notoriety or really exciting things. Life is about living. Anyway, enough of that. I'm just going to show you some bits in the wood. We had some damage from Dennis, and in the last video I did mention the where I thought Dennis had come from. Yeah, and of course, as we all know, the search for constant more money has created a lot of ills. Anyway, let's crack on. So as I said, here's the best oak in the wood. It's been thinned round to allow that crown to expand, and it goes up and up and up, and you see it's got a nice round crown. But this crown here is going to have to be reduced at some point so it can expand some more. It's the battering of the crowns against each other that breaks off the buds and stops the growth. So it's a good old height. I'm sort of guessing 18 meters. And next door to it we've got a Douglas fir that is under the canopy. But there's a couple of others that I planted at the same time that have got up there. And as we see, I should get round to pruning those. So I've pruned that oak. Where are we? Sorry to go so fast. I've pruned this oak and I've started marking them with a white band, as in that is a final crop oak. And coming along here, There's another one. I pruned a few branches off earlier in the year. That's not bad. But I want to keep those crowns expanding. Anyway, let's crack on. And about 20 odd years ago, I put a couple of wild garlic corms or bulbs in here, and look, they're expanding everywhere now. They flower, so they obviously seed, and even in this bit of a path here there's a load, and across there. We're on heavy clay, it seems to like it. And here's another oak. It's not bad. But this cherry will have to go. This one here. And there's that Douglas. So when this cherry goes, that Douglas will open up a bit, and we need to remove all these bottom branches, because, as I've said previously, and I'll reiterate it, let me just see what's going on here. There we go. These branches go right into the core of the tree. Imagine when this tree was 1 inch in diameter, that branch was a small little branch, and it went right into the core, and it's still there. So we had a bit of wind snap down here. That's a lime. And that there was a sickly ash. We'll look at that in a minute. So I just started to break this lot up. There we go, can you see that? All split out. It really needs to come down, this now, because that piece will snap off next time. Thank you, Dennis. We planted a few here. That's a Monterey cypress that we... No, it's not. It's a Monterey pine that we grew from seed. And these are coast redwood. Sequoia sempervirens. So they should be alright in this sheltered area. And that down there is a walnut. So this ash tree, as you can see, it had the makings of bacterial canker all the way up. And when I felled it, this was really dark in here, and you can see how the canker has started to affect the growth. Look there, you see it's splitting into the sapwood. But it was really dark centre when I first felled it. And basically we felled it to reduce the chance of infection. That looks particularly bad, doesn't it? I've seen it a lot worse than this, but it was time to do something about it. Cut into neat pieces that I can just about lift. That'll be firewood in 2 years' time, or 3 years' time. Let's just struggle through this brash. It was a bit tricky to fell it because it's so tight in there. It actually, and I can't show you because of the sun, but it actually got hung up in that green alder there, that leaning one. It was leaning whilst before I started to fell it, so it got hung up in there, and then I just rolled it out. Removed 80% of the hinge, yeah, and as you can see here, that's the sink cut. The felling cut's level with it, the hinge is parallel, and this piece here is where I removed hinge. Yeah, cut through that lot, and then it rolled. So let's just have a look at these green alder. Now these were, again, we'd grown these from seed. And they've bombed on. That's a foot in diameter. It's got quite a good crown, nicely viewed against the blue. But I'm trying to keep this Norway spruce growing on, so I'm going to have to prune a few more side branches off this side. But they really have grown on quite rapidly. So again, it's another species that doesn't hang about. If I had known more when this was planted, I would have planted this in gently curving lines. But this was a cabbage field, so and I didn't know as much. So there you go. Now there's another final crop oak there that is waiting to be pruned, but it's not bad, although there's a fork there. Sometimes you just have to accept those and realise that at some point they're going to snap out. This one here got a yellow dot on it. It's got to go. It's interfering with not only this one here, but the one behind it. So as you can see, there's that crown that's not bad, but it's starting to get one-sided. So this one's got to go. And here's an interesting thing. Some wind snap. Now, this is a piece of ash. As it came down, it damaged that crown a bit. But there you go, look. It's not a bad sized ash tree at about 12 to 14 inches. But as you go up, then it gets awful thin. Yeah, and that's just waiting to happen. So I have to fell that one at some point. I'll try and view it from the other side, just so you get an idea. We saw some of this on one of the videos recently where we were talking about ivy. There was a big side branch of an ash that had split out. And this wasn't overexposed. I can't really do this because we're right into the sun. Oh, that'll do. So here we go. Can't see that well. But if you can see at the top there of that split where the weather's got into it, and then as you come down it's cleaner and white. So it was just waiting to happen. Now there's another interesting thing here. You see this here? So you see this track here? Yeah. It goes all the way up. And it went all the way up, all of the whole tree. And I thought, what's going on there? And towards that end there, it looks like it's tried to heal itself. I think that's lightning strike. It was lying all the way down the tree. I've seen it before. Look, there's another piece here. And there, let me see if I can get this. There we go. There's part of the top of the tree. So it just comes down the sapwood and fries it. And on we go. Obviously I'm not going to be out and about for a good 2 or 3 months. Work's dried up, but you've got to put yourself in a position prior to that, like decades before, where you're not under the thumb of anybody. You're not desperate to earn that last few shillings. You've got to have a buffer behind you. And as you know, we generate all our own electricity anyway. So yeah, that's an oak tree. I've just been ranting on and not saying what I wanted to say. But you see, we've got a fork there in that oak tree. So at some point, down that bark ridge there, it will split out. But it's got a big crown, so therefore it'll put some volume on. So we're encouraging ash regeneration wherever we can. Let the light in and see if we get any natural immunity. Got to get the ash seed. There was one guy I came across who was actually spraying off his ash regeneration, and I just thought, that's a theory that's gone too far. And we've got a bit of ivy here. I'll have to come along and put a stop to that. But some people say that ivy is a good habitat for bats, and I think that's true, but it's a fine balance. Let's have a look. Here we go. Just to finish this off, this is a Wellantonia. The viewfinder doesn't make it look very big, but it's 2 foot across, but it's got a hell of a taper on it. That's a big tariff number. And here we go. And what have we got today through the round window? Catch up with you soon. Hope you're all well. Keep your heads down. And if you want some more philosophy, check out Fitter Philosophy. It's Ralphie, and it's worth listening to, especially about stoicism, self-belief and positive attitude. Keep a positive attitude and the life will be sunnier. Cheers.